Ho, ho, ho. Welcome to the Nog Save the Warrior Princess. Wait, that's not it. Welcome to the No Saves for Working Penguins. Ah, crap. Ooh, it's the Ring doorbell I installed in the chimney. Must be old St. Nick. Hello, Santa.
Yes?
Yeah, hey, just come down to the front door. I'm hiding the pole vault poles I got for the kids in the chimney.
This is highly unusual, Stephen, but okay.
Hey, I gotta finish this thing real quick, then I'll let you in. I made some of those special cookies you like, you know, for your glaucoma.
Ho, 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 ho. You have been a good boy this year, Stephen. I'll be right down.
Okay, last time. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas and welcome to the No Space for Future Saviors podcast. Yeah, what's this stupid show called?
Wait, what is this shit?
Not safe for worker placement podcast.
I flipped the board. I despise that game. Oh, that's not. Oh, wait. Hello and welcome to the 36th episode of the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast, a board game podcast brought to you by me, Leandra.
And me, Ben.
We're married and we're here to talk shit about board games.
Absolutely we are, because that's what we do best. Right, babe?
Yes.
Thanks a lot to Steve from the Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast for our little intro there. Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast is one of the first and still the best board game podcasts out there. I really don't even listen to any board game podcasts anymore. Since really doing our own, I kind of get burned out on them. So thank you for people who do listen to ours, but you should also be listening to them. They're still the best ones out there. So thanks to them for doing that. And thanks to Steve for contributing. And we've got some more contributors this episode. We'll be hearing from one of our all-time favorite designers and publishers, Jamey Stegmaier, about his holiday gaming. And we'll also be hearing from another one of our absolute favorites, Jerry Hawthorne from Plaid Hat Games, designer of Mice and Mystics and Stuffed Fables and so many great games. So they're going to talk about gaming during the holidays and what that's like for them. So we appreciate that. You'll be hearing that a little bit later. So I think the best thing for us to start out our big holiday episode with is to say Happy Halloween, Happy Thanksgiving, all these things. Merry Christmas,
Happy New Year.
All these things have happened since we recorded last. So what better way to kick it off than with an impromptu musical section? So let's play you a little song, babe. This is your favorite thing. I need you to do backup for me here.
Oh, God.
You know this song. You all know this song. So this is from my favorite dead Beatle.
I squished him.
Oh, my God.
Vaughn would be so proud of me.
So this is Christmas, and boy, are you broke. Those Black Friday sales, they really ain't no joke. You got something for grandma and something for sis, and about 50 board games from your Amazon wish list. So have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We hope it's a good one. Now go drink some beer. All right, there we go. And I'm sick, and I got snot coming out of every orifice, so I'm sure that's going to sound excellent when it's all over.
Yeah.
But that's from our family to yours this holiday season. Now let's get on to what we do best in this show, babe, which is what?
What have we been playing recently?
That's right. And we were too lazy to even make a list
We
this
don't even
episode.
have notes.
We have no notes. We have no nothing. So we're going to fly by the seat of our pants. But we do have a big, giant pile of games over there that we've played. And we've probably played many more since in the last couple of months since we recorded. But we're going to talk over some of them. We're going to have a theme here because a lot of our gaming happened around the holiday get-together.
Yes.
So we had, Halloween. Yeah, we didn't do a lot of gaming on our Halloween party, but before then we had a big game day right before Halloween, which was kind of the grand opening for our new studio and bar and game room, the Pickled Tentacle, right?
Right.
So you guys heard about that last episode. We've been recording in here, and that was our grand opening party kind of for having people over and really doing something here. And so what do you think about that Halloween party and how that all went down?
I think it went fabulous. It was a blast. I think everyone that was here had so much fun.
They did, and we did actually play some games. We played Rick and Catherine and them came over, and we played a party game. I think we might have actually talked about that in the last episode. I can't remember. We Need to Talk, which is a party game by Smirk and Dagger, and it's a good game. It's a play off of like Fun Employment or kind of Apples to Apples, that sort of like party style game that's basically trying to get someone to guess something. It's kind of like Password, trying to get someone to guess something. It was a fun little game. But after that, we just played a bunch of pool and stuff. But we had a game day with our friends Brian and Luke and your sister LaToya right before then, I believe. And it was the first time that everything was actually finished in here and that we had people in and playing on the pool table with the setup that we have with the big game mat that covers the pool table and stuff. And that's working out pretty well, I think. So what are some of the games that we played then, babe? We played, first we played Ecos, right?
Ecos,
so
yes.
Ecos is, we're going out of order already from our stack, but that's okay. We played Ecos. It's by John D. Clare and published by AEG. John D. Clare is known for Mystic Vale. He made that game that you put the clear sleeves, the cards in the clear sleeves and change their powers and stuff. Vaughn has that game. We played that. This is his first, I think, it's the first one I played. Actually, he has another big box game, but it also uses that same mechanic. This game has nothing to do with those clear card things. This is just a game about creating a continent, right? So what did you think about this game? I'll explain a little bit more, but do you remember much about this game?
Yes, I do remember that the thing I liked the most about this game is that we all get to play at the same time. So when you're drawing a tile out of the bag to determine what season it is to go on, what card you need to fulfill to be able to place a continent down. Is that correct?
Yeah, so let's break that down a little bit.
Okay.
So basically the game is a simultaneous play, like she said, where everyone has some cards that they start out with, and they're all different. There's different sets of cards, and everybody gets a set, and then that's your starting hand or a starting deck, basically. And they're just these cards that have powers and abilities on them, but you have to fill them up by putting these markers on them based on one player pulling stuff out of a bag, these big chunky wooden tiles.
But everyone gets to fill their cards with every person that draws the cards out of the bag.
With every symbol that's drawn.
Yeah.
So every time there's a symbol drawn, it's like gamer bingo, basically. They're pulling it out of a bag and they're saying it's water or it's grass or it's whatever it is. And then you decide which one of your cards that have those symbols that you want to go ahead and mark per each of those symbols that are pulled out. And then once you complete a card, you can then activate the power that's on it, and everyone around the table could happen for multiple people each turn, and then you're activating these things. And what it's going to do is cool because you got to try to look for some combos with your cards, because what it's really doing is you're building out this map on the board with these hex tiles of different types of land and terrain, and then some of these cards are going to populate it with animals, and only certain animals can be put on certain kinds of terrain, and some can only be in the water. Some hippopotamus can be in the water or on the land. Some can only be in the deserts. Or you could also be populating that map with these big chunky mountain range, these wooden mountain ranges, or trees. And then when you activate some of these cards by filling them up by this bingo mechanism that they're pulling stuff out of the bag, then you can trigger scoring based on how this map is built out, how you guys have built this map together. So maybe I have a card that's going to allow me to score based on the biggest longest mountain range. So I'll count all the tiles on the board that have a mountain range on them that are connected, and then I'll score points equal to that or whatever.
It's very much a luck of the draw kind of game. It's not one that you can pre-plan, and so it depends on which card you're able to get to that's in front of you. Either you're trying to get the seasons, what gets pulled out of the bag. And so for me, I sucked at it because it was just my luck of getting sucky cards and sucky seasons. And then once you pull the wild out of the bag, then it's no longer your turn to be in the bag, and it goes to the next person.
Yeah, because one person's drawing, which doesn't really matter, but what that does is puts all of them back into the bag. So at a certain point, there's a breakdown of how many of each symbol there are, and there's more of some than others. So that there is strategy in that as far as playing the numbers, because you can get new cards to add to your tableau. And one cool thing is a lot of these cards can be used multiple times. So you'll move it, and then you'll activate it, and then
you rotate them.
And depending on how many times they've got a symbol on them, it tells you how many times they can be rotated and activated until they're discarded. And then you can get more cards, and you want to try to find cards that activate off of each other. So if I've got a card that gives me points for mountain ranges, like I talked about before, then I need cards that also let me put out mountain ranges, and they need to be easier to activate so that I can get a bunch of mountain ranges out on the board, or certain kinds of animals. And the animals were pretty cool because they had effects of like somebody, I think Brian, got sharks, and then they went through and were able to just eat other animals on the board, so he could kill other people's scoring opportunities by activating that shark thing. And I think it took a whole lot to finish it, and it can only be used one time. But when it did, it scored him because he scored points for everything he ate, as well as just like a bunch of points. So he ended up having a really good engine going, and like him and Luke blew us away.
And I had a sucky engine. I just couldn't quite get going, which, I mean, I still liked the game and I would like to play it again, but when you don't have the right card combination, it's a little frustrating, but the overall, play of the game is fun, and I enjoyed it.
It's very smooth and fast.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. The one thing I think three of us there at the table, Luke and Brian and I, had all played Terraforming Mars, and for some reason it was giving us all like a little bit of feeling of Terraforming Mars, only a lot more simple, so a lot easier to get into. But it's that same kind of thing where you're trying to do things on the map that then combo with the cards that you're going to then activate. So it's kind of like a really light Terraforming Mars, and I really like that. So Ecos, the First Continent by John D. Clare and AEG Games was pretty much a hit, I think.
I agree.
So next on the list, let's go ahead and talk about, this was a Halloween-y type game too. We played this quite a while back, but we never did review it, and we should, because it's a really cool game. So the name of this game is called Affliction, Salem 1692, and it's by a little company called DPH Games. They have had a couple of successful Kickstarters. This was one of them a couple of years ago.
And I'm sure, as you guys have caught on by now, that I pretty much love anything witchy related as far as games. So when Ben sees games like this, he tends to pick them up because he knows I'll be a sucker for them.
That's true. And then there's not a lot of good ones. Like we've had some real busts as far as the witch type games, but this one, it really does simulate. It's a worker placement game that is in a real small box, but there is really a lot of game in there.
It's only cards.
And it's cards and some stuff. No, it's got a board. It's got a board, and it's got pieces.
Well, it's been since October.
Yeah. So here's how you play the game. So it's got kind of not really a social deduction, but there's a deduction element to the game. So there's a main board, and that's got your worker placement spots, and it's based on a kind of a road type thing where it's going to activate from one end of this path down to the other. So the it's good to pay attention to that, because the order in which your worker placement spots are going to activate depends on where you're placed at on this like pathway, right? And then there's also this row of villager cards, and this row of like townspeople cards, right? So important townspeople. I forget what they're called, magistrates or something like that. And they're all real people from the Salem witch trial era, from in the 1692 trial era. So there's Miller Cotton, I believe, and some other people. If you knew more about it than
Proctor.
I do, yeah. So all these families and all these names of people are in there, and it's a cool thing. So like, depending on the player count, you're going to have people from Salem town or Salem village. If you're a town player, then you can't have any village people in your circle, and if you're a village person, you can't have any town people. And then so if there's 4 players, then there's 2 village players and 2 town players. So you're kind of the out of towners.
And we played with Sue and Tammy, so we had the 4.
Yes, we had the 4. So you're and then everyone gets a secret card at the beginning that tells them who they want to protect. There's a person that they want to protect to get bonus points at the end of the game, meaning that they don't get arrested by anyone and they're in their circle, which means they're kind of protected. And there's also a list on that card of 3 people that you can get bonus points for arresting. And that's an interesting thing. So what you're doing is placing down your workers to get resources, which are these I think they're called blame tokens or accusation tokens, I think. And the accusation tokens are going to be put out on different cards, even cards that people have claimed into their what's called their circle, which is the people they're trying to keep from getting arrested. You can put them on there, but it takes more of them to arrest them. And once you reach a certain number that's printed on that card of accusations, then you can spend other resources. I forget what it's called, but there's some other resources you can spend it's like your energy or whatever, to arrest people. And for every one of those accusation tokens on there, it costs 2 less, I think, to do it. So you can start piling up accusations and basically arrest somebody for free. And so you're trying to do that. And you're also trying to protect certain people because you don't want them to get arrested, and you get extra points for arresting people that are on your special card. Plus, you're trying to protect people that are in your. You can't. That if you're a village player, that the other person is going for village people to arrest, so you don't want them to be able to do that. So you're trying to put these protection tokens on people that they're going to try to get, right. And then some of the people that you arrest have little symbols on them, little house symbols, and that means they've got property. And I guess what they did was just when they would put you on trial, they would just confiscate all your property. So as you arrest people for that, you're going to get points at the end of the game for how much property they owned if they stay arrested in your thing. And so there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on, and a couple little special wrinkles in there. And so there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of pre-planning, a lot of trying to pretend like you don't care about a certain person while still trying to protect them. I
think the element that I liked the most was the player actions. So you get to choose what actions you want. So everyone gets to put their people on the player actions, and then one by one we take those turns. But then you get to choose. You don't know. Wait a minute. You don't get to choose which way they go. It goes like it.
Yeah, it's in a pathway, so you have to do it.
Yeah, and so I personally liked that. So if it kept us trying to get the first player, or at least getting the second player.
It makes first player be important because there's a couple of spots where there's 2 of an action on there. Like say there's one spot where you can arrest someone and get some accusation tokens, and then the next spot down the line that's after that is only you can arrest someone. You don't get any resources for it. So yeah, getting there quicker and getting those ones that activate sooner in that path becomes it's good, and it puts a little bit more strategy in it than if it was just like a work.
And if you put your 2 people at the first top 2 actions, and then let's say you put your people at the bottom 2 actions, well, even though you're next in line, like as far as turn order, it goes in order of the path of action. So you still won't get your turns until the end of the path, which I thought was an interesting aspect of it.
Yeah, and also if you put your people way up early, then you don't have any idea what someone else is going to do, so you don't know how to react to what they're doing. So there's a lot of strategy in that little game, and I'm actually very impressed with it. And so I picked up...
I love the artwork.
The artwork is very sparse and minimal, but I like the fact that they're real people and stuff. So all in all, I'd say for such a small company, the production value is pretty good. The artwork's not the greatest, I don't think, on the board and stuff. Lee likes the style of it. For me, it's kind of
I like the box too.
It's kind of Photoshop-y, like you can kind of see the graphic design, but it's very functional and it works really well.
I like that.
So Affliction, Salem 1692 is a really good game. I picked up there's a mini expansion you can get for it that Miniature Market had for like $2 on a sale. So it allows you to give powers to the people that you have in your circle. So you're trying to get villages in your circle because some of them have powers on them, and you can then activate them by taking certain worker actions, and then they can give you bonus actions and stuff. Now there's some that you can buy these special abilities to attach to these people so they can do more special actions and stuff. So that's kind of cool. So we both gives a thumbs up to that.
Yes.
Okay, and then another one that we played around that same time when we went to have a Thanksgiving dinner at your sister's house. We tried out she had a new big board game map to put on her table that she's got down in her basement. And we played a game that I had been wanting to try this for a long time. It's an older design by Rudiger Dorn, he's a designer that's done so many great games. I don't know, off the top of my head, I can't think of all the games he's done. But this is one that's, I think, probably close to 10 years old at this point. It's called Arcadia. And Arcadia is about building this castle in this village, right? In this medieval village. And the thing that draws you to this game, if you see it and why I wanted to try it, was because it's got these big plastic castle pieces that you're building. So you've got all these big plastic castle pieces that have this color seal there's green, yellow, red, blue, and black, I think. So there's 5 different ones. And then you've got a player screen, and you've got some player miniatures, nice little plastic miniatures of your villagers. And you've got these flags that hang on your little player screen. So you're going to hide what you get throughout the game. So what you're doing basically is on your turn, you are placing out people onto the map. It's like a big grid, and the castle's building spots are in the center. And you're placing out your people to surround these areas on the map. And there's also a bunch of Tetris shape town pieces. So whenever you're going to put out town pieces and then put out people, and you're going to choose, you have an action selection, you can do so much stuff. And so you're like, doing this costs so many actions, and then this costs so many actions. So like, say I'm going to go put a L-shaped piece down there into the grid. I put that out there. Then if ever I can get that surrounded on all sides by miniatures, then whoever has the most miniatures surround it will get a seal of the color that's printed on there. So one of the 5 color seals is on each building. And as soon as it's surrounded by either other buildings or miniatures, then whoever has the most miniatures next to it gets that seal. It gets a bonus seal, and then a seal for each miniature that's surrounding it, as well as everybody else then gets one seal of that color if they have one person around it, right? And so you're trying to get these seals, right? Well, what are you doing with those? Then you get to, when you complete that thing, you also get to build a piece of the castle. So you build a piece of castle, and each piece of the castle has a color seal built into it. And also there's some seals printed on the building spot of the castle. And so as you look above the castle, you'll see the seal colors, and whichever ones are showing, that's how much each seal is worth. And it starts out where every one of them's worth 2, right? There's 2 of them printed. But as you build these castle pieces, you're going to cover some up and make other seals more valuable. And then 3 times per game, you have these flags that you can pull off of your screen, and you can score all your seals. So you want to do that at the right time, based on whenever your seals that you have the most of are worth the most, based on the way the castle's being built, right? So if you hold out and you're like, well, I think I can get 1 or 2 more black ones, but then somebody finishes a thing, gets you more black ones, but then they cover up 2 of the black ones.
Yeah, I sucked at this
game.
game.
Then your black ones suddenly become way less valuable.
Yes.
So Latoya killed us on that one too.
Yeah,
I was doing good up until the last turn, and she scored like a bajillion points.
I didn't even use all my flags.
Yeah, you didn't even score as many times. And then everybody gets one final scoring at the end for free. So I really like it. It's a really simple design, but it's overproduced. It has all these minis and all these big plastic pieces, and it doesn't even need all that to be. It's such a simple game, but there is a lot of strategy and a lot of timing to it. And I'm bad at that, like valuing when to do something. And like, that's always tough to me, but I had fun doing it in this game just because it's so simple and fun. And I like Tetris style.
I'd like to play it again. I was a bit distracted at her house with the kids running around, and
somebody put a poopy diaper on the table in the middle of the game. And
so I mean, it was hard to pay attention. So I would like to try it again.
down the end of the table, and she's like, "Is that diaper? What's that diaper doing there?" I was like, "That's a diaper that they just had a poop diper. They just set it right there on the table." And she's like, "Oh my God!" So everybody's like, "Jesus, get this shit diaper off the table!"
Oh Lord!
So that was exciting.
Yes.
So, that's Arcadia by Rudiger Dorn and Ravensburger Games. An oldie but a goodie there. What's next in that bottom of that?
Well, it's not here, but the other game that we played that day was Treasure Island.
Oh, that's right. We also played another one that day, and we'll talk about it too. Treasure Island. Okay, Treasure Island is by Matagot, and the infamous French producer that makes Kemet and Cyclades and all these great games that we love. Matagot has a penchant for overproducing games as well. Like, you get your money's worth when you buy a Matagot game. This one was interesting because we got a copy of this from them for Moon City, and they sent us a French version. And I was looking to figure out a way to be able to play the French version, but there's too much text. There's no way to really do it. So it just sat there, and I requested immediately if they could replace it with an English version. I'd send that back to them. And it turns out that their distributor was completely out of English copies, and there was none to be had. And so I just sat on the shelf, and I was like, maybe someday I'll figure out a French-speaking person that can use this game. And about, I guess, right before Thanksgiving, which was, September was when Moon City was, this package shows up on my doorstep with an English version of Treasure Island in it. So I was like, well, we're going to add this to our library next year, but in the meantime, we're going to play this game. So tell us about what Treasure Island is, Ben.
Well, Treasure Island is super fun. You have the captain, I guess,
He is Long John Silver.
Long John Silver, yes. So Ben, of course, was the captain, and Toya and I were playing against each other, trying to find the hidden treasure that Long John Silver has hid away in this big, huge map.
And talk about all these crazy components.
The components are so fun. So, like, Latoya and I had a small replica of the map that was in front of us, and then you have dry erase markers so you can make all of your notes about what special notes you've been given as far as, okay, well, the treasure isn't in this area. Well, Toya and I can't see each other's notes, so there's a screen. And then depending on what character you pick, you get special powers, which again, let you mark places off on your map to try to, go into where the treasure is hidden. And
the coolest thing it has these cool big acrylic compasses that you put out, but then there's there's a big wooden compass that comes in there. You snap in a dry erase marker, and you suction cup where you're at, and you can measure with. There's a couple of different rulers that come in the game. These cool clear acrylic rulers. I mean, they're just amazing production. And then you measure, and then you can make a big circle on the board for different distances. So that compass is really cool. And then these search tile or search acrylic patterns that they have. I have a big one, they have a small one, and they're all scaled to where the big one works on the big map, and then you can take the little one and you can just translate that exactly to the small map. So if you got 8 miles on the big map, you use that thing, and then you use the little ruler and you show 8 miles on the little map that's behind your screen.
It really does have cool features to it, and we played twice and I won both times.
You did, and I'll tell you, as playing Long John Silver, so depending on the number of players, you play with a different side of the board, and basically they get more hints. With less players, they get their hints a little bit sooner, I think. I'm not really sure if that's true or not, but anyway, it seemed like what will happen is I have to give them a really good clue right off the bat is one thing,
and it marks off a quarter of the map.
Yeah, gets rid of a quarter of the map for each person, but they're different, and then then I have a handful of cards, and I have to decide which one I'm going to give them based on every turn. They're going to move their people forward on this calendar track, and eventually Long John Silver is going to escape, and then I got to get to the treasure before them. But in the meantime, I have to give them these really strong clues, right? And I have to find what's going to do the least damage for me and what's going to give them the least amount of information and maybe confuse them. But I found that to be very hard, because it's kind of the luck of the draw for you, because you only get to draw 3 at a time and then choose from those, and when you use one, you can get one back. And
we were playing the first game, and we were playing, and then it was time to eat dinner. And so we stopped. It was my turn. So we stopped. We went and ate dinner. We came back down. And the very first turn I took, I found the treasure.
Yeah. So we were away for 30 minutes. We came to sit back down.
And I was done in 2 minutes.
It was done immediately. Yep, put that away. And then the next weekend, we did a rematch of it, and we played it again, and pretty much the same thing. I got farther along. I got to where there's a stage where I get to switch cards, and my cards actually become a little bit harder to determine. They give me more options of how to distract, but I got to play one of those, and they had it narrowed down so close. Where the time before, Lee was a half inch away from it, and then she knew exactly where it was after that. So they get to do the different size searches, and then as long as it's inside anywhere in that search, then they found the treasure. And it's pretty cool because there's a little treasure chest, which I put an actual treasure chest in there, even though these components were already awesome. I took the little cardboard one out, and I got a real wooden one now. And so whenever they do a search and they guess where, if the treasure's there, then you have an option to either hand them an empty treasure chest or put these little tokens in there that give them a one-time special ability, and then also gives Long John gets to draw a card every time that he gives away one of these special actions. So you can put that in there, or if they found the treasure, then you put the treasure token in there.
A couple times he would put the treasure token in there so we could hear it clunk, and then he would take it out and still hand us an empty one.
So it's kind of fun because they get the thing and they're like, it's probably empty. Oh, I got something. Okay. Oh. So there's that little extra added thing.
That was a really fun game.
That's really fun. So Treasure Island by Matago, that's a really, really, really fun game, and you definitely get your money's worth. And I think the English version's readily available now, so you get a lot of cool stuff in that box.
That gets out in Moon City next year. I think it's going to get played.
Yeah, it's going to be in the library. So it's a really fun one, and it's like I said, a variable time length that never took us more than 30 minutes. I don't think to play it. So I would like to have someone else try to play Long John so I can attempt to find the thing.
When we have Luke and Brian over next weekend, I bet Luke would love to be Long John Silver.
Yeah. Once you teach the rules, but that's the thing. That's one of those. It's one of those games where nobody else has to know the rules at all. Really, only the person playing.
How many does it play?
It'll play 5, I think.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
and we'll try it.
So, because you can have 4 explorers and 1.
Oh, he'd love that.
So,
could you imagine Brian? Brian's going to be so stressed.
Brian will be stressed out because he's. I can see it. He's going to freak out. So that's a really good one. Let's see. Also that day we played. LaToya got a Kickstarter copy of a game. Now I don't know all the details of it. I can tell you what I remember of it. I don't know the designer or the company offhand, but it's called Gardens of Babylon.
Oh, that's right.
It was a Kickstarter game. She just received, and she was very excited to play it. And here's my thoughts on it. So I remember seeing the Kickstarter campaign on it. It looks cool. It's got these square tiles that you're placing out that make it appear 3D. So we have a game called what's it called? That railroad game that has that same thing and that effect where when you lay them down, everything starts looking three-dimensional.
Yeah.
They look like cubes basically. And you're building the Garden of Babylon, the Hanging Gardens basically. So you're building these ziggurats that go up, and so you're kind of making this big tall pyramid section. And what you're doing is you can place out your workers or move your workers on your turn, and if you end up on a spot that has a spot for a gardening, then you place down some of your flower tokens, and then they'll trickle down everywhere. Every one of these things can be potentially connected with a water source that's like this running river that runs down the ziggurat. So it'll go from one cube to another cube to another cube.
That's a fun word.
And if they're connected, if they're connected, it's a step pyramid. So if they're connected like that, then you put a flower all the way down there and you take off, you like wash out other people's flowers. So what I'll say about this game is
I sucked at it.
It had a real bad ending because I had so many points that then once my turn was over, there was nothing I could have done to stop this. Leandra had an option to play 2 different things, right? She had 3 different tiles to choose from. She could have chosen any of these 3. She chose this one, and she says she didn't realize it. But basically,
paying attention.
It was the one that was going to allow LaToya, who had the last turn, to then place her thing and wipe out from it. It was the very top of the pyramid, and it was going to allow LaToya to then place there and wash out like 12 of my points, which made me lose the game. But hold up. But either way, what Leandra was doing, her option was left not to help herself, but to decide basically who wins the game. So that's called king making in board games, right? And nobody that I know likes that in a game. So I think this game might be a lot better.
But I really didn't do it on purpose.
Well, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. But the fact that your only options were to just figure, if I do this move, it means Ben's going to win. If I do this move, it means LaToya's going to win. And no matter what I do, I can't win. So you're basically given the decision of deciding who wins the game, and I don't like that at all. So, and I think that may have been a product of it being 3 players. LaToya said that didn't really happen in a 2-player, and I can see in a 2-player game how that maybe wouldn't happen because then I have the option. If it was going to be my last turn, then I would have definitely chosen the one that she couldn't have done anything against me, which was then, that's me making my own fate against this other person who made their fate by playing the game. There's not an in-between person that then decides who wins the game. That's kind of lame. So it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, but I would like to try it again
It only left a bad taste in your mouth because you lost.
Because you lost the game for me.
Because I lost the game for you unintentionally.
But there was nothing I could have done to stop it at any point. Like there was no reason I wouldn't have done what I did.
He was mad at me.
There was no reason I wouldn't have done what I did before to try to get those points, and there was no way I could convince you apparently not to do that to me. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it left a bad taste in my mouth of that game. But I think that could just be a product of a 3-player game, like an odd number of players in that game. But what did you think about it?
I sucked at it, and I lost. And
it's
pretty, and every single one of you guys' turns, I lost all my people. Like it was just one of those games where I just felt I'm gonna not do well at this game. So
there are ways to block, and what the strategy comes in that game because there's certain cubes you can place out that don't have like a pathway to get to them, or so nobody else could get up to it, or they're not connected by water to anything else, so that as you build on top of that, you kind of cut off that pathway of people washing out your flowers. There are ways to do that, but then sometimes you don't have that option because you can only ever choose from 3 tiles at one time. So maybe you don't have the option to safeguard your points.
It wasn't my favorite.
So yeah, me neither, really. And it's kind of sucks because she was very excited to play it, and it's so pretty. And I almost backed it on Kickstarter. I'm kind of glad I didn't. So those are the three we played that day. So that pretty much wraps up our Halloween and our Thanksgiving. So let's take a little break here and let's hear from Jamey Stegmaier and hear what he has to say about holiday gaming, and then we'll get on to our Christmas gaming that we did, and probably our game of the year right now we'll talk about. So that's coming up right after Jamey Stegmaier.
Hey, this is Jamey Stegmaier from Stillmeyer Games, and I've been asked by Ben at the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast to answer a few questions about holiday games, or games that I've played over the holidays. The first question is, do you play games with your family over the holidays? And my answer is definitively yes. I love playing games with anyone, including my family, and that tends to happen every year if I am seeing my family. This year I may not see my family over the holidays, but last year I definitely did. We played The Mind and had a lot of fun with it. I played Animal Upon Animal with my nieces and nephews, and I even played, who were pretty young, they were I think 5 and 3 at the time. And I also played... what was the other game that I played? I can play some heavier games with a few members of my family. I usually play Viticulture, which is one of my games. They all know that game, so we tend to play that a fair amount. And we played Flashpoint. That was the other one I played with my nieces and nephews. In fact, that was a kind of a family version. Old and younger people were playing that one. All those games seem to go over very well, just depending on the types of person, the types of gamers. But we generally do try to include my younger nieces and nephews in these games in some way. So I think cooperative games are good for that. The Mind, I think, will be good for that pretty soon for my niece who is 6. The last question here was, if you could, or maybe will, have your gaming wish for the holidays, what would it be? My gaming wish for the holidays is... So I guess there are a couple of different ways I could interpret this question. One is like, which games do I hope I'll get for the holidays? And one is, what is my general gaming wish, more abstract? I'll say specifically one of the games one of the gaming related products I wouldn't mind getting for the holidays is the Isle of Skye expansion. I love expanding games that I already know that I love. There's a Druids expansion that came out this year that I'm curious about. And there are a few other games as well that I think would be fun to get. And my gaming wish for the holidays is that people do have fun with friends and family over the holidays with games, and maybe they discover something new or introduce someone to gaming or a type of game that they didn't even know they liked before they give it a try for the first time. That would be my general gaming wish for the holidays. Thanks.
All right, so that was Jamey Stegmaier and his holiday wishes and game playing with family and whatnot. So it's about what I would expect from a guy like him. Like if you see his Instagram and things, you know that he plays games at his condo a lot, and now he's got a new girlfriend, and so they play a lot with friends. So it stands to reason they would play during the holidays. So let's talk about playing with family and friends around the holidays with board games. Well,
I was going to comment more on Jamie's wish about maybe introducing new people to playing. We had our nephews out for Christmas this past weekend, and Jax, Jax 14? And this is the first time they've seen the bar, and they were completely amazed. And Jax showed a lot of interest in board games and asking us like what the hardest ones we have and what's our favorite. And so I think there may be a spark there where we can probably get Jax here and start playing some board games. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, several years back, whenever I first got into this hobby, I bought those two guys, Jax and Jace, when they were,
little.
3-4 years ago. Bought them Last Night on Earth because, it's a zombie game as kids. So we played that on Christmas Day at our house back then, and they really had a good time. And I got it for them, and they put it away and never played it again, And I was like, do you still have that game, Actually, they asked me, what was that game you got us? And I was like, do you still have it? Because I could teach you how to play it again. And so stuff like that, I think, is always good. But he's a very smart kid, so there's probably nothing we have that he,
wouldn't be able to figure out.
If he's interested in the theme or whatever, we could teach him anything. It's just, I think with kids that age, it's about just keeping their attention throughout it. So you don't want to have a game that, like something like Quacks Quedlinburg or something, that keeps your attention at all times.
Yeah.
That's the kind of game that you want to play with younger kids, I think. And that goes to speak what Jamey was saying, like playing Animal Upon Animal and The Mind. That's going to bring us into a game we're going to talk about in a second. But The Mind is actually going to bring us into a couple of games. It's by Wolfgang Warsch, the designer of Quacks of Quedlinburg and Taverns of Tiefenthal, which we'll be talking about here in a minute. And it's a very different type of game than that. but it is like a step up harder than, say, the game, which we're going to talk a little bit about. The game is a great... well, let's just talk about it now.
Let's do it.
The game is a great game to introduce people who aren't used to hobby games, who, because everybody knows I play card games and spades and different bar type party card games, right? But the game is a Spiel des Jahres nominee, if not winner, I think. And it's so simple. It's just a deck of 200 cards, and you're just, playing down in your 4 different piles. 2 of those piles are going up from 100 or from 1 to 100. The other ones are going down from 100 to 1. And we have introduced this game several times to new people lately, and it's gone over great. Now, the Mind... we'll talk a little bit more about the sec. But the Mind is like a step up because the Mind is really weird. I've only played it once, and I almost bought it today just because I'm thinking with all these, get-togethers we have. Once you teach someone the game, the Mind is the next step up because it is even more of a... it's literally about you're supposed to stare into the other person's eyes and be like, okay, you're trying to do basically what you're doing in the game, except there's only one pile. There's not 4 piles. So you're trying to play the next card in the series in your hand without wasting any space in between because you want to be the person that plays the lowest. And you can choose who's going to play next. Because if you're playing multiplayer, because you're like, okay, I think I should go next. Are you sure? Yes. And then so you look at the person and you're like, are you looking at your opponent and you're trying to read their mind is the idea.
The mayonnaise or the bologna.
And there's a couple of ways to skip over. Oh God. There's a couple of ways to take back bad moves and stuff in there, but you run out of those really fast, and so you're trying to get to different levels in the game. It's really fun. The Mind is really good, but the game, talk about it. Tell us about how it's been playing with other new people, right?
We've introduced it to 3 different couples in the last couple of weeks, and it's gone over wonderful. And the game is, you can't give out any number, so you can't say, well, I've got the very next one, or I've got the card that'll bump back 10 or whatever. And so
you can never state an actual number.
Can't
That's
say
the
a
rules
number.
say you can't state an actual number or even intimate like fingers, anything. You can't really ever say an actual number or give any hint to the exact number.
Yes.
That
And so we've been trying to,
but everybody cheats at this game.
And so last night we played it with our friend Nicole and David, and they are not gamers at all, and they enjoy the hell out of it. We played it 3 times in a row with them, and we got to the point where okay, I am the mayonnaise on this piece of bread. Are you the bologna or the cheese or the second piece of bread? I need to know where you fall into the layers here.
But nobody had any idea what kind of sandwich anybody was making. Or I did not have a clue what they were talking about.
I'm the lettuce and tomato on the top before the bread.
And I'm like, I don't know what any of that means. And so everybody always says the one thing you can do in that game is be like, don't touch this pile.
So we always say hot fire.
Hot fire means
hot fire.
I mean, hot fire has come to mean that you could jump it back or you could do something like that. But Ben
was funny last night. I yelled hot fire and then did it back twice. He's like, that was double hot fire. You didn't say double hot fire.
So you have your own codes and stuff. And I've heard that's it's a game that I've never really played, but that everybody has codes for is Hanabi. It's a game where you don't look at your own cards and everyone else can see your cards, and they have to kind of give you clues of which one you need to be playing so that you can all play your cards out in the right orders. That may be one we should try too with people that like that kind of game. I've never actually played Hanabi because I have a problem with, I played a couple other games where you're supposed to turn your cards backwards, and I always turn my cards the right way and look at them. I can't stop myself from doing it. So, but, people start figuring out codes and ways to cheat in those games, But the game is super hard anyway.
It's fun. We still haven't won.
Oh, we've won 1 million times.
No, we've not won 1 million times.
You and I can win it 2-player almost every time.
I'm pretty sure we've been cheating the whole time.
No, we haven't. No. But anyway, you and I can win it 2 players. Well, yeah, you cheat because you say numbers you shouldn't say. But
we were
with the more players that we weren't. The more players you have, the harder it is to play. So. No, we weren't playing it wrong. We played it wrong after not playing it for months and years. We hadn't played it, and then we played it with the wrong rules, but we used to play it right. 2 players is just much easier because you only got 2 people to contend with, and you can really, especially when you can make runs like that, get more, play 4 cards at a time or whatever, and you don't have to worry about any but one person because that a lot more cards are still in that deck, so you have less of a chance maybe to screw that person over than if there's 2 other people with stuff in their hand and it's like, oh, you just screwed me, So the game is fantastic. I'll say that's like number one bar game right now of like
the Pickled Tentacle
coming out in the Pickled Tentacle. Yeah. So the game that goes along with family type games that you can introduce to anyone. The Mind, the game, things like that just come out so easy to teach. And then everybody's engaged immediately, right? Okay, so let's move on to talking about another Wolfgang Warsch game. What I would say for us has been our game of the year, right?
I would agree.
It's come on late, but it's called Taverns of Tiefenthal, and it is being published by in the U.S. by North Star Games. I love the theme of a bar game. I'm surprised there's not more of them about running a bar. This one's kind of a medieval / fantasy style bar, right? And it's coming off the heels of Quacks of Quedlinburg, which was a big hit, Game of the Year winner for Wolfgang, and this is his next game coming out after that, right? So had a lot to live up to with that Quacks of Quedlinburg thing. And
Quackers is so fun.
We love that game too. So I was hoping that it could be a little bit more of a gamer's game than that, and it is.
It is.
It's not a deep strategy game.
No.
It's a very light deck building aspect of it, but what it does have, we found, is has a ton of replayability. And once you play one game of it, you should just dump there's 4 modules in the game.
Just dump it all in there.
Put it all in there because you need to make it a real gamer's game. You put everything in. It's not too much. It's not overloaded.
No.
It all fits together nicely. It's basically it is the game is with all the modules in there. But you can take some out and replace them and just find your mix.
It was too simple without it all in there.
With the first module, the way they tell you to play is a very simplistic game and too light for what we wouldn't enjoy it, I don't think. But it does do a good job of teaching you what's going on in the game. But after that, you've got to just throw everything in, throw the whole thing in, because then you've got the reputation track and you've got your what else does it throw in? Oh yeah, the kind of mamas and papas thing in viticulture of different starting resources for everyone, and maybe they start with some different upgrades. Also, what else comes into there that's not in the very basic game? Anyway, here's a little bit about Taverns of Tiefenthal, right? So, like we said, it's a deck builder. So your deck consists of your helpers and your customers, right? And so you have a starting board set up with 3 tables on it, right? And so you're going to be drawing out of your deck until you fill up all 3 of your tables with customers. And then sometimes you'll get your help will come out of there, and so maybe it will be a beer vendor, or maybe it'll be a bar back, or maybe it'll be a serving lady, or maybe it'll be a washer wench, right? And those all just allow you to they give you special abilities throughout the game. And then once you've drawn all and filled up all your seats, or you can also have seats in your deck. So you can add another chair. Then you can draw another card. So there's that push your luck thing in Quacks of you're always going to pull as much as you can out. But deciding how much of what to put in your deck becomes good, because then you can go and you figure out how much beer you're going to produce and how much money you're going to produce. Those are the 2 big resources in the game, and that can all be influenced by the helpers that you've drawn that turn, and some upgrades that you can do to your bar. So a lot of your bar, the bar is modular too, so it's really cool.
It's all dice based.
Yeah, so it's dice placement. We'll get to that part in a sec. But the cool thing I like of the modular board. Do you like that? How the board can be flipped over all the different.
That's how you upgrade all of it.
So everything can be upgraded. And then, so then after you do the deck, so there's a deck building thing, and then there's a dice placement aspect.
And you're spending money, and you're spending beer, and you're spending the money on the cards for your washer wench and your waitress, and an extra seat or a bar back or an extra beer guy, and you're spending your beer on getting new people to sit in your seats, which then allow an extra space for
making
the different
money.
Dice, which makes money, which then turns around, and then you could buy the extra cards, and then you can do the upgrades.
Yeah.
And
so it's all about just comboing up. But the dice placement is interesting because you're drafting the dice, so everybody's got a little coaster, and you roll. You start out rolling 3 white dice, and if you have any of the serving ladies that come out of your deck, you add. Everyone has 3 colored dice as well, and so you can add up to 3 colored dice of your own color, and only you can use them. So you roll them and you set them on your board separately, and then you roll all your white dice, and then you pick one of them. and then you pass it on until, it's 4 white dice. And then you pass that on until everyone has selected have gotten 4 white dice, and then however many of their own color they got. And so then each spot on the board, each card has, for the most part, all the customer cards can be usually 1s, 2s, 3s, or 5s to get money, and you'll get that much money off of that person by placing that die there. Then you have a cash register, which you can put any die down to get $1, or if you upgrade it, you can pay money to upgrade it, flip it over. Then that brings us into what really the name of the game is, which is getting these royal cards. Nobles are worth 10, or royals, I think. They're worth 10 points at the end of the game, and they also only take up, no matter how many of them come out at once in your deck, they sit at the same table, so they're not taking up many tables. So you can continue to draw more if you get a bunch of nobles.
You can.
And every time you upgrade a spot on your bar, you get a noble. That's one way to get nobles. You can also buy them.
9 beers gets you 1 noble. 14 beers gets you 2 nobles.
So they're very expensive to get that way.
Royals.
So one of the best ways to get royals is to upgrade your stuff, because you're then getting better actions off of your board. Plus, you're getting a royal every time you do it. And so you can upgrade your pretty much everything. You can upgrade to have a permanent server. You can upgrade to have a permanent washer winch, which allows you to add 1 to a value of any die. And so for every washer winch you have, you can up a die by a pip, and you can use like 3 washer women to raise 1 by 3 or whatever. And then you also can place a die to make beer. There's always one spot to make 1 beer, and you can upgrade that one to make 2 every time. And then there's another spot for your beer vendors, and you can have those guys in your deck. And for every 1 or 6 that you place there, you'll produce as many beers as equal to those guys that you have out. So if you have 3 beer vendors out, then each die you place there is worth 3 beers. So you put three dice there, you're making 9 beers just with that one spot, right? And then let's see, barbacks, they just give you an extra beer every time. And so all these things are working together in order for you to try to be getting customers that are worth points at the end of the game, and then find ways to get enough beer or enough money to upgrade your spots to get these royals. You got me calling them nobles now. These royals in your deck, because that's the name of the game. Like whoever gets the most royals is where it's at. And then one of the modules is like every time you buy a customer from the buy row, then they've got a little signature token on them, and you place that in your signature book, which gives you bonuses based on what you cover up there. And then every time you get a row or column filled, if you buy a 4 beer guy, then you get to put him in a 3 or 4 beer column. If you buy a 5 beer guy, he's got his own column. 6 beer people, 7 beer people got their own column. And as you fill those up from right to left and up and down, when you complete a row or column, you'll get a royal that way too. So there's lots of different ways to get the royals.
I flippin' love this game, and we've played it a handful of times already. And
we played it many times.
And my husband, he literally told me, "You need to throw it," because I was winning, and he was getting so mad.
Why do you think it's important to say that when you win games all the time? Why do you think that's important to do?
The last 2 games we talked about, I talked about not winning. I was like, I sucked at those.
Why that is that you always like to point out when you win.
Really?
All the time. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's very interesting to me.
I also pointed out when I didn't win, and I sucked at them. So shut up.
Anyway, so Lee's beating me a lot at this game. I don't think that matters, but apparently think it's really important.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that I spanked you like several times in a row, and you threw a big old fit about it and said, we're playing one more time. I'm not going to stop until I win one. And then I had to get drunk and then play you, and that's how you won.
Yep.
But you're going to go ahead and mention and ask me why I think it's important to mention that I'm winning?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why is that important?
Oh, okay. Why wasn't it important to mention that you weren't winning?
I don't know. I guess whenever I win games, let's just start keeping track of them and just let's keep a tally, and we'll say.
Because this specific game, I kind of beat you all the time.
That's true. I don't want to play with you anymore. But anyway,
yeah, he took it to Springfield to play.
No, I haven't won. I've only won the game once or twice.
You won it once with me because I got drunk.
Yeah, and I won it. Did I win? No, I don't remember.
I think you took it to Springfield and you won.
No, I lost it.
Oh, you lost that one too?
No. Oh, yeah, 2 as well. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I lost it too. Yeah, babe, I did. Lost it too. Oh. Man, you're really starting to piss me off.
I'm sorry.
I'll tell you what.
I'm sorry. Anyway, so Taverns of Tithmfl is an awesome game, and you should go out and get it.
Okay, Taverns of Tiefenthal. So winning is all that matters, Leander, as long as everybody knows she's shallow.
Such an ass hat. That's
Okay.
not true.
Okay, speaking of which, let's talk about that. So that brings
Speaking of
into
ass hat,
not ass hat, plaid hat.
plaid hat.
Speaking of that, let's go ahead and hear from Jerry Hawthorne of Plaid Hat Games about his family and their gaming habits during the holidays, and we'll come on back with the last few on our list, and then we'll have IRL, and we'll get the hell out of here and start getting ready for the New Year.
Whoop, whoop.
So here's Jerry, and we'll be right back.
Hello, friends and listeners at the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast. I got a couple of questions sent here to me. The first question is, do I play games with my family over the holidays? Well, of course I do. Does a bear squat in the woods? Absolutely. And what kind of games do we like to play? Well, we like pretty much party games like Codenames and King of Tokyo. But lately we've really been getting into these adventure game series. Right now we're in the middle of the dungeon. We plan on finishing up that one this week. Just love the app that comes with it that you can have read the story to you. It's pretty fantastic stuff, and my family seems to really love it. I got another question here. It says, if you could have my gaming wish for the holidays, what would it be? Well, I would love it if all of you out there would find somebody who isn't really into games and bring them into our hobby and introduce them to a new game and make some new gamers out there, because we need to sell more games. So anyways, this is Jerry Hawthorne at Plaid Hat Games, and I want to wish Ben and Leandra and all the listeners at Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast happy holidays. Thank you.
All right, and we're back. So that was Jerry from Plaid Hat, one of our favorite dudes.
Yes.
He's such a sweetheart. So you hear that, you got to buy more games. So we need to introduce new people to the hobby. And we've been doing that as much as we can. We talked about that with the game. And I think that's just a good thing to do with your family. If you can, like I said, if you got some kids that are getting up in age, teenagers and stuff, that's like, it's a good time to at least float it out there. Float it out there. It might stick. You never know. So we've got a couple more that we played during our holiday games sessions. We went up to Vaughn and Morgan's for a holiday day, Thanksgiving, actually. We
did.
And we played Taverns of Tiefenthal with them as well, and I think Leandra won that one as well.
I'm not saying a word.
We got to keep track of that. We got to make sure we say when everybody wins. So we played also a cooperative game that Lee and I have really had a good time playing together. I don't think we'd ever played it with anybody else yet.
We haven't.
Chronicles of Crime. So at this point, I've got all the expansions, and we had only ever played the base game where you're modern day British investigators, right? And so we went through the whole first campaign scenario that was like 4 games long, and we had to disarm a bomb, we had to do all this stuff. It's super fun, right? Take a bunch of notes and never reference any of them and miss out all the important clues, and comes down to disarming a bomb at the end, and so spoilers, I guess, but that may not happen to you, who knows. But so we've really loved it. But then I've gotten these expansions and we hadn't gotten to try it. So I've got the Noir expansion, which still haven't tried. But then the one that came out after that really excited me was called Welcome to Redview. And it is an 80s kids investigation team.
It's our childhood, babe.
So it's like Monster Squad meets Scooby-Doo meets all that.
Stranger Things.
And meets Stranger Things. Yeah. So you are in the town of Redview, and you're the Redview Youth Investigative Squad or something like that. I don't know. But this changes the game in the way of you've got instead of having people that you can call, like the forensic specialist and the pathologist and all that stuff, you have special abilities on each of your characters, and you power them with candy bars, right? So you have candy bars, and you can power your special abilities, and there's also dice rolling that happens. So each player has 3 stats based on their speed, their knowledge, and their talking ability, like their fast talking ability, right? And so I was the smart nerdy kid. Leander was the pretty fast talker. Vaughn was was he the jock guy, or was he another girl? I think he
was a girl.
And then so we had a good spread, and I can't remember who Morgan's character was, but we had a good spread of people who were good at different at those different abilities. And so you can roll dice on certain challenges, and you need to get successes, and then you can re-roll by burning your candy bars as well. So the whole thing is about like finding ways to re-roll your candy bars or finding the right people to attempt these things, because every time you attempt one, you're burning time. It's like everything in Chronicles of Crime is run through this app, and everything you do takes time. So if you do like me and push wrong buttons on the app, then that also burns off time. So the one thing about talking about this game is you don't want to get into a lot of specifics because, again, spoilers.
Yes.
But this one is, I mean, the first one thing I'll say about it, it's like PG-13 maybe, you know. It's not R-rated, but it's definitely PG-13, which most of them are, I think, and they kind of go for that kind of thing in the Chronicles of Crime. They don't shy away from murder and sex and stuff like that. So there's no graphic stuff, but so this one has
blood and stuff.
Yeah, this one has the same. Now, the interesting thing about this one is there was only 2 spots where we had to actually use the 360 view at the iPad to check out crime scenes, whereas it felt like in most of the other ones there was a lot more of that. And that only happened twice in this one.
This wasn't my favorite.
Really?
No, I didn't. I liked the previous one that we did with those characters, with having the inspector and the kid who the whiz on the internet.
Yeah.
And I liked that whole setup better than I liked the 80s kids.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
I love this theme the most of all of them that they've got so far, but
we haven't tried the other one yet.
The noir.
I think I'd like that one.
But I know I liked this one a lot. I liked the rolling. I liked the story where it went. I liked that it was dark, and it was a little bit supernatural, and it was a little bit real, and it was hard to tell which was which. And
yeah, it wasn't my favorite.
I don't know why my phone keeps going off. I've turned it down and it's still going off. But anyway, so you didn't like it? That's all you have to say about it?
I mean, comparative to the other one that we've played, I liked that one much better.
So you like the modern day?
I do. I like the modern one much better. I didn't care for the candy bars and the dice rolling and the other one I felt like we were able to do more discovering, like me taking the notes was a couple of pages because we were able to do more and discover more, and we were able to do the 360 views more, and with this setup we were we didn't make the roll because we didn't roll the right dice, and we don't have enough candy bars, and we don't have enough this, and
okay, I'll buy that. I think one part of it may be because if you don't dig the theme or the new mechanics, that's a wholly different thing. I think that this was the first in the scenario, so I think the first one that we originally played and the other one, it's more of a tutorial type thing, so it's not that in depth. This one definitely wasn't that in depth.
No.
So it was a little,
lackluster.
Yeah, there wasn't as much to get into, that's for sure. But I was intrigued to keep going with it. But it sounds like, I don't know if we'll be able to, because if you didn't like it, then I don't know. Maybe me and Morgan can play it. But no, I liked it. I do want to try the noir, and there's still plenty more game in the base game that we haven't
played. Even done all that.
And they just announced a plague time version of it that's coming out next, where you play I don't know how you're investigating a murder there. Maybe you're like a monk or something, but yeah, it's like in the 1400s.
That's cool.
That's the next one that's coming out for that. So, but still Chronicles of Crime, really cool the way the app works, the way the time management is, especially if, like I said, it's a little fickle. I wish there was a back button on there where because if you did do something wrong,
you were hitting the wrong button constantly.
Yeah, I hit the wrong button a lot. I wasted at least a good hour in one of the days, I think, just hitting the button.
Well, you were on the auto scan. We had to take you off the auto scan.
Things kept auto scanning because the game works off of scanning QR codes, and I had the auto scan on, and it was pointed at the certain thing.
It was grabbing the wrong thing.
Kept scanning it, and I was like, what is going on? Clip, 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 and then time was
an hour was gone.
Yeah, it was just clipping
Turn off the auto scan.
Yeah, so we did that, and that helped a little bit. But we still got a pretty good score on it. We figured out 3 of the 5 real important things, and one of them wasn't that big of a deal, but we didn't know exactly who the killer was. That was the only problem. We knew it was out of the last 2 people, so that was a pretty big detail to miss. But the way that it resolved,
figure out who the killer was.
The way that it resolved, still everybody that needed to go to jail went to jail, but it was we didn't know exactly why. Cops had to clean that part up at the end, but then it was all set up to continue that story.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of open-ended stuff that you find out about the school and the principal and stuff that is going to come into effect the later stories, which I thought is cool. That little small town aspect of it, and being in the 80s where cell phones aren't a thing and stuff like that. I think that's cool. So that was Chronicles of Crime.
There you go.
Now, we've got a couple more on our list here. One of them is another Kickstarter that LaToya brought over. LaToya has gotten the gaming bug, something fierce now, which is, I gotta tell you, when you talk about gaming with family at holidays and stuff, this has upped we always have played games with her and stuff, but now she is rabid about it as we are. So we're just all like, even when we have things at her house, we're like waiting for her family to get out of the way. They're like, she's like annoyed with people like, okay, can we get done eating real quick so we can start playing games?
She had me send her husband a link to Amazon to get her the Wingspan
insert.
The insert with the dice rolling.
The new tray.
Yes.
The new birdhouse tray.
So she sent me a picture. Look what I got for Christmas. I was like, oh, buddy, listened.
Yeah,
she was so excited.
She's all in. Like, she's as soon as she like hears about, like, she does way more Kickstarter than me, and so anyway, she has a different taste in games. Like, she'll play anything that we play, but certain things are more to her liking. She's like Leander. She wins most of the time.
Yes, she does.
She probably doesn't rub it in as much as Leander does, but
no.
She does have a different taste, I think, based on the games that she buys for herself. So again, she
likes the very colorful new games, where I like the Euro worker placement,
the dry
strategy,
drab-looking things,
and she doesn't. She goes for the more of the colorful.
She'll play those games.
She does play them,
but you can tell somebody's style by what they buy.
Yeah,
and also I think she's still developing, finding what she likes. So something will grab her based on the looks, I think, and then she gets it, and then she determines whether or not this. But so the newest one she got was Rival Restaurants. It's by Gap Closer Games, and I remember seeing this on Kickstarter and not really bleeping my radar. You know what I mean? Just kind of scrolling by, because I think there's a lot of restaurant style games out there. A lot of them are time based. This one's time based, which usually I skip over. I don't really like real time games that much. So there's a few that's like, one's called Walkstar, and it's all this time based stuff where you're trying to run restaurants, right? I usually skip that because the real time thing doesn't bode well for strategy. Pleasantly surprised with this game because it has a timing section, but it's not the whole game. There is a strategy part of this game. So basically what it is so you each get a restaurant card to start out the game with. So like, say I was a Japanese sushi place.
I was an American restaurant.
An American restaurant. LaToya was whatever she was, French restaurant, I think. Then everyone draws a random chef. That chef has a special ability on them. And then so the reason that your kind of restaurant matters is because if you cook dishes that also match your restaurant, you get a bonus 1 point. It's not really that big of a deal. But good thing, because I never got one at all.
I didn't either.
And so what you're doing is you're getting recipes. Everybody starts out with 2, one basic and one gourmet. And then you're going to try to gather the resources that you need, the goods and stuff from the market. So basically the game's about going to the market and getting the stuff you need.
There was the dairy and the carbs and the vegetables, and then there was the mystery place that had like the tofu and the chocolate and the wine.
The chop shop where you get the meat and stuff.
Where you get the meat. And so like the tofu could be used in place of a meat item on your recipe.
And like wine, you could add to any recipe to just get an extra point on it.
Yep, same with sauces. You could add that to the not the entrees, but the gourmet entrees for an extra point. So there was all these different fun aspects.
So let's say a basic recipe might need like 5 things on it, right?
Like eggs.
A gourmet might need 7 to 8 things on it, right? Depending on the points that it's worth.
So you flip over the timer and you put your chef in whatever section you want. And then if there's 2 chefs in the same place, then you have to start bidding.
Yep.
And if there's not, then you just get whatever you want, and you can buy as many items that are available, as much money as you have.
Yeah, and you can also buy a mystery off the top of the deck. So each one has four things out that you can see, and you can start buying them as fast as you can. And then the coolest part about the game, and the thing that impressed me the most, is during that timed phase, which is only a minute, you're buying your stuff, but then that's also the time that you have to bargain with other players and be like,
I need some eggs.
Yeah, and they're like, they just bought it, but maybe they only bought it because there's the only thing there that they thought and maybe they don't care. Maybe they would buy it. You can buy it for double what they just paid for it or something.
So I tried every time I was at a place by myself to, if I could afford it, buy everything that was available.
And you did that. You had all kinds of of groceries.
And then you guys came to me and I got paid double the amount, sometimes triple.
Yep.
Ben offered me triple and I made him pay it. And then Toya offered me just double for the same exact item and I let her pay it. He's like, wait a minute. So I could have just paid you $200 instead of $300. I said, well, you offered $3.
Yeah, she screwed me over on that. But that's the most intriguing part of this game because it's a very simple game in and of itself. And there's some interesting things. So every time you cook, so at the end of your turn, the last thing is if you've gotten all the stuff for a recipe, you can then cook. Now you have to manage because when you cook one of your recipes, each recipe also produces an amount of trash. And the more points it's worth, the more trash it produces. And you take these little trash tokens and you put them on your restaurant. Then every time you cook, if you still have trash on your restaurant, you have to deduct a point for each trash that you have. So
or
maybe
you can go to the island and
you can pay money to dispose of your trash during your placement phase. But then if you go to the island, that's all you can do is you can either buy upgrades there or get rid of your trash.
Which they have like a social media upgrade, which then lets you get extra money at the beginning of each round. And there was all these.
There's ones that let you cook on two recipes in one time, which normally you can only finish one. There's one that gives you you get to look through the recipe because normally what you do is when you finish a recipe you just draw the top one off the deck. If you do the upgrade, then you can look at 4 of them and choose one, which is a big difference because you can actually get things that maybe you already have some of the food for. It's really good, actually. It was really fun.
I enjoyed it.
Very light, and there's not a whole lot to it, but that part in the middle, that negotiation part and stuff, is really what makes it.
I pissed off my sister when she went to the bathroom. I stole her bread.
Yeah, there's definitely take that because my player's ability was just to give people trash from my
you
board.
gave me a lot of trash, and then I gave you a lot of. Now I get half of your money.
Oh, hey, who won that game?
Who did win that game?
I wonder who won that game, babe. It was me.
Was it?
It was me. Now that we're keeping score.
Oh.
Yeah, even though you stole my money
was it you,
multiple times.
Did you win, babe?
I won.
I'm so proud of you for winning.
Good. I'm glad. So it's the only game I've won in a long time. So yeah, I did. And I won big. And after you stole my money about 3 times.
After you gave me trash about 3 times.
Yeah, I gave you like $300 worth of trash and you stole about $900 worth of my money. So I don't think it was that big of a deal. You had plenty of money to pay to get rid of your trash.
Stole my sister's groceries when she got up and went to the bathroom.
And she was about to win too. Like
she was.
That's one of these things where Lee King made again except the other way around, because if she hadn't have stole this particular recipe item from LaToya, she was going to finish out.
Oh, she came back. She was so mad.
It's first to 20 points ends the game, right? And so LaToya was going to be able to finish 2 at once, and then Leandra took the thing so she could only finish 1, and then I finished mine out and got 20.
Of course, I heard it. Well, if you hadn't taken this, then I would have been able to win.
Yeah. But she didn't. I did. There is one game that we have one more on our stack, but there's actually another game we played in between, which was we played after one of our Christmases early on. And right now it is a Barnes & Noble exclusive. It's by Keymaster Games. It's called Parks, and I think we should probably talk about that. It was a Kickstarter game, and the only way to get it right now is at Barnes & Noble. It's going to come out for wider release in a month or 2, I think. But Keymaster Games is making some really cool games now. Parks is a game that is about visiting national parks. There's already a game about that called Trekking the National Parks, which I've heard is a really good game, but it looked like Ticket to Ride to me, and I was like, I don't need another version of Ticket to Ride. But Parks is a whole different story. It's beautiful, first of all. So it's a pretty small, it's medium box, but the whole footprint of the game is pretty small. Everything fits on this pretty small board. I always like that when a game has a spot for all the cards and stuff, like everything fits on the board, which is awesome. And there's 2 inserts that has game trays in it, which anytime I see game trays, I'm happy. They look like little wood logs, and they hold all the resources, and the resources are all these custom cut little pieces of wood. So you got sunshine and water and animals. Excuse me. And all the animals are cool because the animals are just wild resources, but the animals, there's like 20 different shapes. They're not the same thing. It's not like one bear. It's like everything. It's bats and bears and whales and dolphins. And I mean, just all kinds of little cool little brown little animal shapes. And there's 2 sets of them. So you can set one on each side of the table so people aren't reaching all the way across the table. It's very thoughtful the way they designed this game, right? So you got 2 full trays full of resources and you don't have to be reaching across the table and stuff. Very ergonomically designed. Somebody did a really good job on the graphic design of this game, and the art is all based on. I wish I had the box in my hand, but I don't. But the art is all based on a print series done by an artist that they did some stamps based on this guy's art for national park series. So he's an artist, famous artist that does his national park prints. And all the main cards of the parks that you're visiting in the game are prints of that guy's series of 52 national parks or something like that. So in the game, it's pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to visit parks by getting the right resources to do it, but it has an interesting action selection mechanism, which comes along more and more often now, of that it's a track, and it's a straightforward track, and you can jump as far forward as you want because you want to get to the end.
Then you're going to skip all of those
everything before.
resources in between.
Same thing in Heaven and Ale, same thing. And there's a lot of games that have that one-way action selection thing, and I really like that in a game because it makes you choose, like, do I really want that action? Am I willing to sacrifice?
You have two meeples.
Yep.
So you're able to, maybe if you want to, go ahead and skip that one. That way you'll be the first one to get it so that someone else doesn't get it. And then turn around and take your second little dude and
get a whole bunch of stuff
all
with
the
him.
little pieces.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there's a mechanism where you can go on the same spot as someone else only if you have everybody has one campfire that starts the round face up, and then you can one time per round you can flip it over and go where someone else is, and after that you can't do that anymore.
I also liked it that when the round was over, you would pick up the cards and then re-put them down in a different order. So then you would shuffle them. So it wasn't the same order. So the trail is always in a different order in the action space, and you add a new action space every round. So you play 4 rounds, and each round the trail becomes a little bit longer. Yeah. So it gets more complex as you go and you get more options. Really fun. It's just fun. And there's some good ways, and then there's gear that you can get, which I think I focused too much on. I spent a lot of my resources. Who won that one? Oh, I believe it was you, babe. Oh, was it?
Oh. Congratulations for winning that game,
Thank you, honey.
Oh, I'm so proud of you.
Thanks,
I would just like pat you on top of the head if I could reach you right now.
Aww.
So, yeah, you won. I think just barely though. It was close. But it's a great game. Like, so it's just basically like kind of like a Splendor type thing where you're trying to get the right resources in order to turn them in to claim a card before someone else. But it has that reserve thing, which is good, where you can just go ahead and reserve a park if you get to that spot and hold it in front of you, and then only you can do it. So you can reserve, a whole bunch of them at once if you want, but then you might have everybody else has a secret card at the beginning that tells them they're trying to look for certain kind of things, like go to parks that are worth a certain amount of points, or go to a park that uses this kind of resource to visit. And so you're also looking for that, and you're waiting for those to come up. And the reason I held out a lot in that game was because I was looking for the high scoring parks, and they just didn't come out. And at the end of the game, we looked through the rest of the deck, and there they all were at the bottom of the deck. So, I should have just forgot about that about halfway
why
through.
You didn't win.
No, that's just explaining the game, babe.
Those excuses. That's all I heard.
What did you think about parks?
I loved it. I'd play it again.
Because you won? Surprise, surprise, everybody. Leandra won the game and she likes it. No, it's really good. It's one of those games, again, like when you talk about family games, that's a really great game. If somebody asks, what's a good game to pick up for the family? Parks at Barnes & Noble is a great family starter weight game. Beautiful, ergonomic, easy to teach. It's all just a good little package, and it's really pretty. If that's the first board game you throw out to a new family member, that's never played it, they'll be kind of blown away by the presentation.
I think so too. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking there are so many more games that we've played that we're not even going to mention. We played the new Matt with Gwent. We played Golden Girls with the Pop head figures. That was
Funko,
awful.
Which we can go ahead and review that right now. The Funko Pop game is no
awful.
Good. I mean, I can see where it's fun if people just want to have it for the pops and have a fun, like a little quick skirmish miniatures game. But there are so many better miniatures games than that. And I'd heard good things about it. And then we got the Golden Girls one, and I'm like, and we just were both like, nah, there's nothing to this
I don't even know who won.
I did, but of course you don't remember that. But no, it's just not that great. I thought maybe it would be better if we had 4 characters, because you could play potentially 4 characters, 2 characters apiece, and you get those little generic characters in the box. So you get one real character with abilities and one that doesn't have any special abilities. They just take a place on the board. That's kind of lame. So I almost thought about getting the Rick and Morty expansion just to see what it's like to play with everybody with their powers, but it's not that intriguing.
No,
it's not intriguing enough to put any more money into it.
It was boring as hell.
So I think I did, I paid $24 for 2 Golden Girls pops.
That's exactly what you did. We should just take them out of the box. Let me put them on my desk at work.
Yeah, probably should just give you that.
Yep.
So, Funko Pop game, not for us, I don't think.
Nope. So the last
what else? Okay, yeah,
game
the last one
is what?
Let's keep talking at the same time. You go first.
Nope.
Yep. Okay. So another one of our favorite designers and companies is Red Raven Games, right?
Yes.
And so we pretty much get everything that they put out.
Yes.
And this was their latest one. It was a Kickstarter game, and it's just been released. It's called Roam, ROAM, and it is hands down the lightest game they've ever made. I'll say that right off the bat. Super light, super simple. That is not a negative in my opinion.
Nope.
One thing you always get with Red Raven is you get Ryan's artwork, which this is chock full. It takes place in the same world as Above and Below and Near and Far and Islebound, I guess, and pretty much all these games take place in the same world. I think it's called Ryria or something like that.
With the same looking characters.
All the same, same character types. This game is all about it's a area control game in its simplest form. So you've got a map in the center of the table made up out of 6 cards, and there's some money spots. They're all just grids. Each card is a 3x3 grid, and so you're making up this map, which will end up being a 9x9 grid, right? And every player has their own color pieces, and you've got 3 explorers to start with, and these explorers have little, like, what would you call it? Like patterns on them, right?
Yes.
And they can explore in this pattern. So maybe my guy has like a Tetris L, let's say, like two down and one over.
And it's based on the way that you're looking at the board.
Yeah, it's based on my perspective. So if somebody's sitting to my right, they're looking at it from a different way, and I'm looking at it from this way. So I set my explorers in front of me, and then I'm looking at the map from that perspective. So let's say a Joe Blow explorer can set down 3 pieces in a little L shape, right? So I can put my 3 pieces down anywhere on the board in that L shape, and I can skip over any places where anybody else already is, and they can be part of my pattern. I can't extend off the board with that pattern or anything, and all I'm trying to do is cover up the gold that's on the map in order to take gold and get the most on each card whenever they are filled up. So when somebody fills up a card, you count who has the most, they get that card.
Which then turns into another pattern for you to be able to use.
Absolutely. You flip that over and it's got an explorer on it with another pattern, which you can see on the map side.
And if anyone else that it doesn't have the majority on the card, if you have a token on the card, then those people will get $1.
Yep. And you need money to get these special items that are off to the side of the board, which are worth points at the end of the game, plus they have special abilities. And every time during your turn, you can use one and flip it over, and then whenever you've used each one of your explorers, you flip them over, and once you've flipped all your explorers over, you can, as a free action, flip them over and all your special items back over and use them all again, or you can pay 1 coin per one that's still face up to go ahead and flip everything back over. So that is literally the rules of the game. Once someone has 10 explorers, so they've claimed 7 cards basically, game ends. You count up points. There's points on each of the cards, there's points on all the special abilities, and you add it up, and that's it. And it's very fun.
It really is a simple game, but it's so lighthearted and it's just fun.
It's just fun and fast paced. Yeah, it's like really. I mean, you can teach it in 2 minutes.
We played it on Christmas Day with mimosas and Bloody Marys, and we enjoyed the hell out of ourselves.
And that brings us to one more game that we haven't talked about, because we've been playing a shitload of it too. Okay, let's talk about it, because I mean, we've been playing this game for years, but it's been a long time, and I don't think we were even doing the podcast when we first started playing this game. So that is Kingdom Builder.
Yes.
Kingdom Builder is by Donald X. Vaccarino, the designer of Dominion.
We played a lot of games.
And but we've been playing this. Like I started playing it again on the iPad just because I was looking for a good quick game to play, and I had bought it years ago, so I still had it. I downloaded it again. I was like, man, I forgot how good Kingdom Builder is. And it just so happens that I have every expansion for it, because a couple years ago, I like the base game anyway, but a couple years ago, Amazon had one of those weird, crazy days where they'll do this every once in a while, where games were just going for $5 and stuff. And so they had every one of the expansions for Kingdom Builder for under $10. So I bought all of them that were available at that time. I just found out there's a new one, which pisses me off because I thought I had them all, and I can't fit any more in my boxes, so I probably won't even buy it.
Dang it.
But we have 3 expansions. We have the base box, Marshlands, Crossroads, and whatever the other one is.
Are you playing with
Nomads.
all of them?
Nomads, yeah, because basically you just randomize everything, so you never know what's going to come out. If the Nomads one is in play, then you get your little dudes or your boats or your
Okay.
Just depends on. And so the beautiful thing is that now we just randomize it, and you never know what combination of tiles, what combination of special.
It's a different game every single time you play.
People shit on this game back when it came out.
I don't see how.
I don't either, because it's such a good puzzle game. It's a puzzle every time, and just even with that base box, like it's going to be different every time you play it. You know, some cards that come out, the scoring cards are. No, I didn't even talk about Kingdom Builder. If you don't know what Kingdom Builder is, here's the deal: you take 4 map sections randomly, and you plug them together, and then those types of each one has 2 different special abilities on it. You put those out on the different sections, and then you just start playing. And the rules of the game are: there's 4 different terrain types. There's let me think. There's
flowers, forest,
flowers, field,
and desert.
Desert, yeah. So, and water and
mountains
and other stuff. Yeah, mountain and water, but you can't place on mountains and water. So what's going to happen is you're going to flip over a card on your turn, and that is going to be the type of land that you can affect this turn. And all you do is, the base rules are, you take 3 of your little houses and you put them on the board on that terrain type.
In each game, there are 3 set goals that you're trying to go for. So each time you play, it's a different set of goals. So
and it's a different set of map tiles, and so everything's different. And then there are certain buildings that, like I said, those special ability buildings that are on the maps. If you build next to them, you take one of these tokens, which then gives you extra actions on your turn. So it builds from there. So the more action tokens that you get, the more you can do on your turn. And you're just trying to place out. Once somebody places all their houses out, game over. You look at the scoring cards and you evaluate how well you've done.
Would you say you're building a kingdom?
I would say that.
Would you call it Kingdom Builder?
I didn't have to. They did. They named it that.
Genius.
So, it is genius. Super simple, but also pretty brave because it's one of those games where everybody's working with the same thing. Now, it could be that you get the shit draw, but it's up to you to deal with that. You know, it could be that somebody gets a card every time that they just needed to do exactly what they wanted to do, and then they do really well.
I've had both ways of playing, where one game I just could not get anything that was useful for me, and then the next game I hit every single card and blew the scoreboard out.
And I think that's sort of what's fun about it, is that it's quick. Even with 4 players, 5 players, it's going to play in 45 minutes, and it's over, and you want to play again. You want to play different. So if you had a bad game, no big deal. 30 minutes down, and then especially 2 players, it goes super fast. You just do another setup real quick.
We played 2 games of it on Christmas Day.
Yeah, we played 2 games at least. It's one of the games where you never want to play it just once. As soon as you play it, you want to play it again. You know, so I don't know. That's a bonus review for you. So if you haven't played Kingdom Builder, if you can find a deal on it, it's a pretty old game now, but it still stays in print because it's a really good game. And the more expansions you get, just the more variability you get. But even that base box has so much game in it. So that's Kingdom Builder by Donald X. Vaccarino. And I think that pretty much wraps up.
It's going to have to.
Our game. I mean, like Lee said, I know there's other games we played in between, but that's going to have to be it for this episode. And we're going to move on right now to IRL and then get the hell out of here. So we'll be right back with everyone's favorite section, IRL.
Are you ready?
You know JoJo's ready.
Jordan John.
Got it going on.
We got a funky IRL going on.
Okay.
God. We're so
we did that.
Stupid.
We did that to people. Okay, so it's IRL time, and that's your new kids on the block. I think we did enough of that shit last time, trying to break down the acronym. So we're not even going to do that. Okay. So what's been going on in IRL, David? I think we should talk about entertainment that we've been taking in lately, because we've been so exhausted from working and
I've had inventory at work, and then you've been working crazy hours with the holidays and delivering mail. And so we come home, we eat, and we sit. And
we've been vegging out on great TV lately. So let's talk about some of the shows we've been watching. Let's talk about yours. Get yours out of the way. Your favorite show in the history of forever.
I have been watching Outlander, and I started watching it a while ago, and I watched the first episode, and I was like, this is awful. I don't like it. And then it showed up on Netflix, and I was like, I'll try it again. And oh my God, I got through that first episode, which was so slow. And then after that, it's just, I can't even tell you how much I love it. I love it so much. And
kilts are lifting all around.
Oh my God.
All you got to do is do a Scottish accent around here. And everything just gets moist. I don't get it. I don't know why it works.
Oh, it's glorious.
Come over here, sassy knackers.
Shut up.
I don't know why. I don't understand the draw, but you really are getting into it. So.
I love it so much. And then And then so I've started it over again, and the fourth season's only on Stars. Well, the third and fourth seasons on Stars, and so then I signed up for Stars and I quick binged watched it, and now the third season's on Netflix, and only the fourth season's on Stars, and the fifth season's going to come out on February 16th, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
Okay, now that we've talked about that, let's move on to good shows.
It's such a good show, and you aren't giving it a fair try.
I never will.
You've listened to a few episodes in the background. You won't sit down and watch it, and I know if you did, you'd love it. And you should do it just because it would make your wife so happy.
I don't care. I tried to watch it. I tried to watch the first episode a couple of times.
I told you I told you the first episode was rough.
Yeah,
once you get past the first episode,
well, that's it. They had their chance to hook me.
Glorious.
They had their chance to hook me, and they did not. So, what is a show that did hook us with this first episode, though? Watchmen.
Yes, Watchmen.
HBO's new show. So, based on the original DC comic that Alan Moore wrote, which I could spin off and talk about Alan Moore for a while. He's crazy genius. I just read his book called Jerusalem, which is like his first novel that he ever wrote, and it's like 1,500 pages, goddamn giant epic. It's an excellent book. So Alan Moore is just a genius, and he didn't create the characters. I can't remember off the top of my head who created Watchmen, but he wrote the series back in the 80s, and Watchmen has went down as like the quintessential graphic novel comic book template. It's like taking the superhero genre and turning it on its head and making it realistic and putting real problems of both personal and global, and what the effects of having superheroes in the world would really be. Then
it's fantastic.
Here comes the Watchmen TV show, which I thought didn't know anything about coming up, and I thought, is this just going to be a start over where the movie ended? Because the movie, I
didn't care for the movie.
It's Zack Snyder, and it was. I mean, I thought at the time it was a pretty good, retelling of the comic, because it's shot for shot for some of Watchmen. I mean, it's probably about as good as you could do, but it's a movie that shouldn't have been made. It just they shouldn't have tried to make a movie out of it. It's better of what they've done with this show, which is place a whole new story in that universe. So it does continue the story in a way, but it also has little to do with the original Watchmen story.
You're getting more Watchmen time than I got Outlander time.
That's because it's such a better show. So anyway, Watchmen, whole new set of characters. Sister Knight, one of the best female characters on TV. She's awesome. The fact
also Claire Beachman or Claire Fraser as well is one of the best female characters on TV.
Okay,
Claire Fraser,
sure, but Watchmen anyway. Yeah, I don't want to say much about it except for the fact that it's HBO, so pulls no punches as far as it really blew me away by how heavy they went and how intense they went on the thing that it is literally, and especially for the times, politically at the times we are, it is all about white supremacy and the KKK basically underground, still operating and having nefarious plans and being infiltrated into the government and assimilated in. And the real story of the Watchmen is how now the cops are pretty much superheroes because they've been forced to hide their faces because of this thing that these white supremacists did and try to kill all these cops. So now the police have to basically have secret identities and wear masks and stuff. And then it gets back into the whole history of the Watchmen and the group that came before the Watchmen, the Minutemen, and that's this big family tie thing. So good.
Excellent.
I mean, I kind of thought I wasn't super thrilled with the way it ended, like the very last episode or two. I felt like it went on it sped up so fast. But man, when it was slow paced in the first half of the series though, like it really was tense and really it was like, it gave me flashes of like True Detective. Like it was that intense and like it was sinister. Like you felt like there was some evil shit happening, and which most superhero movies fail to do. But bringing in real life shit like white supremacy and stuff like that makes it feel real, and that's what they did. And then I really like that. I thought that having a super strong black female character is something that doesn't happen that often.
She's fucking fantastic,
and she was awesome in that. She was vulnerable when she needed to be vulnerable. She was strong and badass when she needed to be badass, and she was awesome. So Watchmen, for sure, thumbs up. What else have we been watching? Mandalorian on Disney Plus. So Disney Plus launched. We got lucky enough to, like most of America, I think, be on the Verizon network, and they gave you a free year of it. So we started watching it right off the bat. First Mandalorian episode.
Don't give anything away, just in case anyone hasn't watched it.
Won't say anything about Mandalorian.
Except that they need to make a whole movie just about Mandalorian.
Yeah, well, basically that's what it is. It's kind of like a long movie broken up into little, because it's only 30-minute episodes, which is very weird nowadays, and it's just those little bite-sized episodes, and
they're not long enough.
Every episode is written and directed by a different pair of people, and there have been some real high-level directors. Taika Waititi, Bryce Dallas Howard has directed, so different, and the whole thing is created by now I'm forgetting the guy that plays Happy in Avengers. But anyway, Jon Favreau. And so, you can tell how much of a Star Wars fan he is, and he really took to that. And everybody's saying is that this is more Star Wars than the Star Wars movies are nowadays. And it does kind of feel that way, because it's a little cheesy and it's a little hokey.
So good.
But it's so good. And so we still haven't watched the season finale. We're going to watch that after we get done recording. But so 9 episodes, I think, in a season, and so hopefully that won't take too awfully long before they're going to do continue.
Yes.
So Mandalorian, fantastic. I don't want to say too much about it.
We've been watching The Witcher, and it has been hard to keep up with because I don't know all the characters like you did because you read the books, but you've been explaining it to me. But damn, it's good too.
So The Witcher, The Witcher, coming from I'll never be able to pronounce the author's name, but it was originally a set of fantasy books that spun off into CD Projekt Red's video games that it really hit with Witcher 2. Witcher 1 was only available, I think, on PC. I played it. But then Witcher 2 came out with the Xbox and was like a smash hit. And then Witcher 3 was for everything. And, it became one of the biggest video games in history. And so they had so much to live up to, such a big fan base already, that whenever I heard them announce doing it, I was like, man, all they can do is screw this up. Like, there's no way they can pull this off right. And then they cast Henry Cavill, which was very, divisive, because there's not a whole lot of fans of his Superman, movies. And I don't think it was his fault. I think he was a great Superman, but just the way that they did those movies.
His voice drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I listen to all the books on audiobook, and the guy who does them is fantastic. He is, and even in the video games, Geralt has a kind of a Scottish accent. So to hear him just be a big American guy with a gruff voice is kind of weird. But I got to say, as far as pulling it off, the attitude and the look of Geralt, Henry Cavill pulls it off. I think he's doing a great job.
I'm a sucker for Scottish, man. It'd be nice if he had a Scottish accent.
It's probably best that he's not trying to do that. But yeah, so far they're throwing a lot of plot into the first couple episodes, and so I know what's going on.
Keep up with.
I know what's going on because I already know the full arc of the story. But if you were coming into it, so I tell everybody, it's a great show, but you gotta pay heavy attention. You might need to watch each episode more than once to parse through what's happening. I have a feeling what they're doing is introducing all these characters now so that they can start weaving them together, and it will make more sense. Mm-hmm. But they're front loading it with a lot of backstory and stuff that they're just saying through dialogue, So if you don't catch all that, you could lose. And they're throwing names of things that you don't even know.
Well, yeah,
is that a person? Is that a kingdom? What is that?
Names.
Yeah, and there's this weird Polish fantasy name. So. But I will say that is one of the best fantasy series I've read in years. So
the show's been great so far.
If they can do it justice with with that and tie in that overarching story, then it's going to be really good. So far so good on The Witcher.
I went and watched Little Women today at the movie theater.
Yeah,
had afternoon tea. It was wonderful at the Alamo. That was super fun.
Alamo Draft House is always cool to go watch a movie at, right?
Recliners, leather seats, waitresses coming to you while you're sitting there watching TV. I mean, it's just glorious. And then what else? More Outlander. Every time I get a chance. So I do my own nails now to save money. And it's like my own little nail night. Like every 2 weeks, I put my earbuds in and turn on Outlander and pour myself a big old glass of wine, and I sit there for about 2 episodes and just watch Outlander, and then
you're drunk,
and then I'm totally drunk, and I'm having my own little party all on myself. I'm like, can someone fill my wine glass? Because
you got like tinfoil on
my hands, or they're wet or whatever.
You're having your own little spa day.
And I enjoy it so much and get drunk. I listen to Jamey and watching Jamey and listening.
Watch me. It's time to change my kilt. I've got to show my little bare bum.
Oh, please do. My goodness.
Oh my God. So, and I guess next up, the next thing is like, I was like ready to cancel HBO. All we're talking about is TV right now. I was ready to cancel HBO, and then they announced that, I think it started now, is The Outsider, The Outsider, which is based on a Stephen King book, which I have read as well. So it's this weird thing whenever I have more info on the stories and then you're watching them from like a raw perspective. It's funny to me because like The Witcher, there's no way I could spoil the very end of it for you, but I don't know how they're going to get there on the show. But The Outsider is very much based on a twist thing.
Don't spoil it.
I know what the twist is, and I'm interested to see, I'm interested to see how they do it, because they've already, just in the trailer, introduced new characters that aren't even in the book, like a main character that's not even in the book.
Don't spoil it.
So
when does that come out?
I think it started already, so we need to check that out, because I really want to watch it.
So much good TV to watch.
TV is just killing it right now.
I love TV.
And I don't usually, but
and wine. And
I can't
TV.
usually commit to shows, but lately there's just been so many good ones.
I'm gonna get you to watch Outlander.
I don't think it will.
It's no different than you already have reading or listening to a whole entire book and knowing how it ends than me having watched all the episodes and starting over again. It's absolutely no different.
Except I wouldn't recommend it unless it was good. And I'm afraid you're recommending something that's not good.
No, it's so good. There's war and history and romance, and it's all in this glorious package with this beautiful scenery. And
all right,
it's
listeners,
so good.
Listeners, you guys watch Outlander, and then you tell me if it's any good, and then I might trust you, but I don't trust her. I just don't. I just don't, because you beat me at games all the time, and you piss me off.
I'll start losing at all the games if you watch Outlander with me.
Okay, maybe I may have a deal there. I may have to do that.
I'll throw every goddamn game.
All right. What happens after we finish it then?
I'll start winning again.
Okay. You heard it here first. I'm not watching Outlander. All right. So I think that's it for episode 36.
That's
what do you say?
I think we're done.
All right. Well, I'm sorry I've been
My
so
butt's
sick
numb.
and coughing, and we know the state of Lee's butt now. Yeah, it's been a rough one to try to get recorded just because of the holidays, but I wanted to, because we usually do a big Halloween episode, and since we weren't able to do that, I want to do like a holiday filled episode. And so I'd like to thank all of our contributors this episode.
Thank you, boys.
To Steve from Secret Cabal, to Jamey Stegmaier, to Jerry Hawthorne. Thank you guys very much for I reached out to some other people too, but I did it right during like PAX Unplugged, and everybody that right when I send people emails, it was during PAX Unplugged, and I actually got a response back from Mallory and Ryan Lockett, and they're so busy working on Sleeping Gods right now that they were going to send us in a little snippet, but didn't have time before my deadline. So they said hi and Merry Christmas to all the listeners as well. So with that, we're going to sign off, and we'll come back in episode 37, talk about a bunch of new games that I've gotten in. I've gotten in my Mezzo Kickstarter. We've got Everdell. We've got so many good games to talk about. So Leander's giving me the signal to let's go. So
wrap this shit up.
Let's wrap it up. Rap-a-doo. Rap-a-da-doo. Or rap-a-beat.
This is normal, people. This is not put on for the podcast. This is our normal life.
What I say is not just I'm rapping to the beat. Okay, before I get sued by the Jurassic 5 or whoever did the Rapper's Delight, I can't remember. Anyway, all right, guys, have a Merry New Year's, because that's the only thing that's left by the time this comes out.
Merry New Year's.
Yep, and then 2020 is bound to be better than this year, right? I mean, it's got to be.
Full sight.
Full sight?
Was that? Well, because it's like 2020.
Full
Vision?
sight?
I don't know. Vision? I was trying to be punny.
Oh, full sight? No, I just like that. Hey, that's our new motto. 2020. Full sight.
I was trying to be punny, and I suck at it so bad.
2020. Full sight.
Fuck you.
See you next episode.
Full sight.